9:08. Good morning. It's the Dave Elliot Show. We have a Thursday going on here. In a little bit, we'll be checking in with Mayor John Sorey. Right now, though, I'm happy to have with us a gentleman that I've been very much looking forward to meeting today. And his name is Chuck Malatesta. He is a co-founder of an organization called Forza. Chuck, first of all, welcome to the program.
Thank you, Dave.
Thank you for coming into the studio today. It's a hike, I know, for you here.
Yeah, I like it.
You can get a little closer to that thing if you don't mind. There we go.
Thank you.
You have started a charter school called Gulf Coast Charter Academy South.
Right.
And you're on Radio Road right next to the Wells Fargo Bank there where the Department of Children and Families is located, right?
That's correct.
Blue and white building there?
Blue building, 20,000 square feet.
And how many students do you have?
Right now, we've been marketing for less than a week, and we have 100 enrolled already. We started doing mail drops last week, Friday, and the phone's been ringing off the hook.
Really? Now, what makes your school so unique compared to other charter schools in the area?
Well, in Collier County, there's not many charter schools. As you know, there's one in Immokalee, which is about 60 miles away from where we are. And then you have the Marco Island Charter School, which has been around for about 12 years.
They have that in the middle school there.
Right, middle school. So there's really not another option for parents in that area.
Mm-hmm.
So let's say we've been getting a lot of calls from parents that say that they don't know what to do because they can't afford private school, but they don't want to go to the school that they're zoned in. So what's their other choice? Yeah,
and often, and because of the cutbacks in public education funding, a lot of school choice opportunities have been left out in terms of
That's right.
Out of district schools. If you have a kid that, for example, lives in the vineyards, but they want to go to, say, Poinciana, they can't do that.
That's right.
So along comes Gulf Coast Charter Academy South. Now, what kind of research did you have to do to determine whether there was even a need and that you would be successful?
Well, we've been working on this project with the board of directors since 2010, if you can believe that. That's how many hoops you have to go through to get a school approved.
Mm-hmm.
And we had to do a lot of research in the area. We actually worked very closely with Collier County Public Schools to find out what the need was.
Mm-hmm.
STEM, which is science, technology, engineering, and math, was a need, plus the ELL program.
Now what was the reaction to the school system when you said you were going to start this school?
Well, some counties are very charter friendly and others are not. Collier County's been great. Nicole Hughes is over there. She's the supervisor of charter schools, and she's been very supportive and very helpful.
For people who don't know, what is the relationship of a charter school like yours to an existing school system? What cooperations do you have? What, if any, regulations do you have to follow? What sort of relationship do you have?
Well, we are site-based management, which means all the decisions regarding our school are made on site with parents, administration, the student input. So it's a little bit different than the traditional public school setting. But we do work with Collier County because we want to have a good relationship moving forward, because at the end of the day, we're all in this for the same reason,
Mm-hmm.
and that's to have a successful learning environment for the students.
Now, a little bit about your background.
Well, I've been in education for 13 years. I started teaching at the Charter School of Wilmington in Wilmington, Delaware, and that's ranked the 11th in charter high schools in the United States, 46 public and charter, and that's where I kind of learned about charter schools. They opened in 1996, and what they did was they took a failing high school, and they started in 1996 with 9th grade charter. So they had 9th grade charter, and then they had 9th
and 10th, and then 11th over the intervening
And by
years.
2000, it was a full charter school, and by 2000, it went from being the worst school in the state to the best school in the state.
Oh, then I got to ask you, what changed? What was different?
Well, it's a lot of the site-based management that you can make decisions on site based on the need of the school. High academic standards, dress code, shirts tucked in. I mean, it's really like a private school learning environment without the tuition. And I think, that's a pull for anybody that can't afford, private school, but they don't want to go to the traditional public school in their area.
So one of the big benefits then of apparently parents signing up for a school like Gulf Coast Charter Academy South is that it costs less than going to, say, a community school or some of the other private schools.
It's free. Totally
Absolutely free.
Absolutely free. So there's nothing that you have to pay for except the dress code shirt, $10. So you really can't beat it.
Where do you get your funding?
We get our funding through the state. So we are a public school. We're just a charter public school. And what happens is we get the money from the state, It goes to the county. The county takes 5% right off the top. So we actually get less funding per student than a traditional public school, and then we get the rest. And that's how we fund the school with enrollment.
What sort of educational standards do you have to live up to? Do you have to abide by the state standards, and do you have to issue the FCAT and all of that?
We have to take the FCAT. The only difference is we don't teach to the test. We just teach, and the students will perform. But yeah, we have to go through the same thing that a traditional public school does.
Well, when I listen to you, Chuck, I'm thinking to myself, there is no disincentive for calling you.
No, not really. And like I said, 100 kids in a week, that tells you the need right there. And we're going to be full probably in a month.
So what do you tout then as the advantages over the public school for your charter school, especially in the areas of STEM, which is what you're concentrating on?
Right, STEM. The program pretty much sells itself. And not to say that Collier County doesn't have good public schools, because they do. They do have good traditional public schools. I think it's more giving parents a choice. My dad worked 3 jobs to send us, me, my brother, and sister, to private school, K through 12. He worked 3 jobs to do that. And I look at private school tuition today, and I wouldn't be able to send my son or daughter to a private school. It's too expensive. Mm-hmm. And if I'm not happy with the school district in my zone, that school, well, I'm not going to move. But what's my other choice? What am I going to do as a parent?
Well, I think most people think, maybe mistakenly, but most people think any charter school's got to be better than any public school. Is that necessarily the case?
Oh, not necessarily, because there are charter schools that don't perform to their capabilities. Mm-hmm. It's all how it's operated, how it's run.
Well, famously, there was one here in Southwest Florida, I think, that failed. Somebody stole the money, or there was some embezzlement, and they wound up having to close their doors.
Yep, that does happen, and that's poor management, poor financial management. But, Florida has 600 charter schools, which is second in the United States.
So what do you do if you reach your capacity? Because you're now grades 1 through 5, although I understand you've had to expand a little bit because of demand.
Yeah, we were planning on having K through 5 year 1, but we're getting such a tremendous amount of phone calls from parents in 5th grade that would like 6th grade. So we have added 6th grade. We've also been getting calls on a VPK program, so we're going to add VPK as well.
So you're very responsive, and I guess another one of the advantages of a charter school, particularly one like yours, is that the student-teacher ratio necessarily, at least at first, will be very, very low.
Right. It'll be low, and we do follow the state standards for that, class size amendment. Mm-hmm. So we do follow that. But the difference is if we have the space available, we just add another section, for the students. We don't want to turn anybody away.
I want to broaden the conversation a little bit when we come back. You, by the way, for people who don't know, you have your master's in education. You're also now a businessman, which I'm sure has been quite a learning experience for you.
Oh, it's been great. It's been a long time coming, but it's been fun.
Well, when we come back, I want to broaden the conversation a little bit and talk about what you perceive as the state of public education, not only in the state of Florida in the United States, but here in Collier, because I know you've been paying very close attention to that. So we'll be right back with Chuck right after this. It's 9:21. We're back here with Chuck Malatesta, M.E.D., Master's in Education, Chief Operating Officer of Forza Education Management, LLC. And I have to ask you, and also the founders of the Gulf Coast Charter Academy South, which is taking registrations right now for students. It sounds to me like you formed a company that might be interested in having more than one school.
Oh, absolutely. We are actually submitting 4 other applications. They're due August 1st. Another one in Collier, one in Lee, one in Sarasota, and one in Flagler.
I see. So all but one of them on the West Coast,
right?
One on the East Coast.
Right.
You get funding from the state, but that funding, I understand, doesn't come in for another 5 or 6 months yet. So how do you get enough operating expense to stay open?
Well, that's the most challenging aspect of opening a charter school, is trying to find the funding from now till July, because we don't get paid until July. So it's a lot of 401k money coming out to do the marketing. We're actually looking for contributors and investors to help with the opening. We're looking to the community because we need playground equipment, physical education equipment, teacher supplies, furniture, desks, and we don't get any of that money till July. So
you're looking for either donations or short-term loans.
That's correct.
And if a person were to invest on a short-term basis until July when you get your funding, how do they what's the benefit to them?
Well, we can offer up to 10% in 24 months, which is a pretty good turnaround time. We've been talking to a lot of local community members, developers, attorneys, and there's a lot of interested people that are coming to the table to help us out.
Well, that's pretty cool. Now, I wanted to talk to you about the much bigger picture here, and that is, obviously, you didn't start this just because you want to get rich, because nobody gets rich running a charter school.
No, they don't.
But what you must have had a reason for doing this that goes beyond just the business aspect of it. What is the reason?
Well, I believe in charter schools, and I believe in choice. And in the beginning, in my early years, I was all for private school, because I went to private school, K through 12. And when I got involved at the charter school of Wilmington in Delaware, I realized that this is going to be the next big thing, to give parents a choice and, some place that's similar to a private school learning environment without the tuition. And back in 2000, I said, one day I'm going to open a charter school. I said, because I really believe in it. And I really believe that the parents need a choice, especially here in Florida.
A lot of people think that if there are a bunch of charter schools that pop up in a given community, it's going to hurt the public schools. There'll be a lot of buildings that won't be used. There'll be teachers out of jobs. There'll be less funding for the schools. Is any of that true, or is some of it true? Or?
There's a lot of misconceptions about charter schools, and our goal is to do the same thing that any school is to have a successful learning environment for the students and to teach the kids.
Where do you see the state of public education today?
Well, I think there needs to be a lot of changes. I mean, if we take this back to the early 2000s when charter schools were really starting to take off, it's competition. It is competition, but competition raises the bar. And we're not trying to close traditional public schools. We just want them to be similar to our format and our setup, which is site-based management. I mean, if you think that, okay, so you have people in Tallahassee making decisions about education, but how do they know what it's like in Naples or Dade County or Broward? Every school is different based on the needs of that school and that community. So you take away all the decision-making up top and give it to the school because they know what the needs are in that community. That's how it should be.
So, in other words, more local control, more local decision-making, more local education tailored to the needs of those specific students.
Correct. And we're wasting a lot of funding, in education, and we're wasting it. Wasteful spending.
Here in Collier County, we have almost 48% of the population non-white, and a good number of that 48% non-speakers of English or English as a first language. English as a second language, actually, is ESOL.
Right, correct.
How do you deal with those students?
Well, that was part of our application. When we met with Collier County back in 2010, we asked them what the need was, and they had mentioned STEM and they had mentioned ELL because of the high population of ELL students. So our program is based on STEM with an emphasis on English language learners. So we have a whole separate program for those students.
Now, what is the capacity? I wanted to continue on the conversation. We're going to come back to capacity in a minute, but I wanted to talk more about the state of public education. You say you would like to see public education use your model, which is more site-based management.
Right.
When you have a school system, for example, the size of the Collier County schools, 43,000 students, or the Lee County schools, 80-some thousand students, it seems to me nearly impossible to give every school its own autonomy to make decisions about education and still have any kind of a consistency from school to school. So doesn't it seem almost, I don't know if counterintuitive is the right word, but doesn't it seem almost impossible for that to happen in a large educational institution?
Politically, but if you think about it, how can you operate one school in an affluent area the same way that you can operate another school that may be in a lower socioeconomic area? It's two different schools in two different areas, two different needs. You can't run them the same way and be successful.
Well, no, you can. But I would argue that here in Collier, for example, you have schools like Manatee Middle, Manatee Elementary, Avalon, which are have high percentages of minority students, even Lely High School. And they do seem to operate those schools somewhat differently from schools at, like, say, Naples High, or Lake Park Elementary.
Right, and you have some of that control. I think most of it's more budget related because, for example, in the traditional public school setting, if you don't spend the money by a certain date, if you don't spend it, you lose it for the next year. So they end up spending it on things they don't need. At a charter school, we can take that money and use it in a different line item.
You would think that would be something that they would look at for public funding.
You would have to.
Also, federal education mandates, things like No Child Left Behind, things like the Head Start program, which, of course, is now being talked about as being in danger because of the sequester. Are those things helpful, beneficial? Do they need to be changed? Would you like to see the Department of Education, for example, go away at the federal level, or do you think it serves a useful purpose?
In some areas it does. I mean, when you talk about budget cuts, that's the most challenging for any type of charter school because we already get less funding than everyone else. So when they say you're going to get X amount of dollars and then in the middle of the year they do a budget cut, that impacts charter schools tremendously.
Sure. Yeah, because you have much more reliance on that than
right.
you don't get some of the other funding mechanisms. What is your long-term goal for the school in terms of numbers of students and expansion of the program?
Well, we're going to go VPK through 6th this year. We're going to double the enrollment next year, add 7th grade, and then we're going to add 8th grade the following year. And by then, we'll have a high school application ready. So these kids can go K through 12 in a charter school learning environment.
And how many total students do you expect to have by the end of this year?
At the end of this year, our projected enrollment is 304, and we have 100 already. So I expect a waiting list in about a month.
Really? So kind of first come, first served. And with the emphasis on STEM, what should parents of students be looking for in their students in order to have them be successful at your charter school?
Well, it's going to be a little bit different than what they're used to because of the discipline. We get a lot of parents that will call into the school the first 2 weeks and said, I never had this problem before. You never had the problem before because no one did anything about it at your other school. So, we take those things very seriously. Dress code, obviously, shirts tucked in. I mean, that's all really important part of our school. So,
what I'm getting at is, since you're going to have emphasis on science, technology, engineering, and math, are you going to be looking for parents whose kids seem to have those proclivities, or who want their kids to be in those vocations going forward?
Well, yeah, I think that would be a benefit to them.
But they're getting a full education just as though
right.
they were in it. Yeah,
exactly. We're
all the basics.
We're doing the same curriculum as Collier County. We're just supplement it with extra curriculum.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. Are you looking for high achievers? Are you looking for average students? What is your screening process
Well, we
like?
are a charter school. We are a public school, so we have to take everybody. Mm-hmm. So we'll educate everyone that comes to the door.
All right. Fascinating stuff. Chuck Malatesta is the Chief Operating Officer of Forza Education Management, a new company that has just formed the Gulf Coast Charter Academy South. And if people want to reach you or find out more about the school, how do they do that, Chuck?
They can go onto our webpage, www.GCCAS.org, and there's an online application for parents to secure a seat.
All right. This is fascinating stuff, and good luck and congratulations on it. And I hope that years and years from now, we're talking about the thousands of students who have graduated from Gulf Coast Charter Academy.
That would be great.
Thanks for joining me.
Thank you, Dave.
You're welcome. It's 9:30 on the Dave Elliott Show. We'll be back after this.